in another way, from another point of view, DB Boulevard point of view, and just then a beautiful little soul jazz joint that was Colour by Pete Joseph. I've really, really enjoyed that. That was beautiful, man. And we actually listened to it in a different way where we were in a conversation, but it was still like washing over us in the background, and that was just perfect, man.
It was a beautiful track, man. You've been hot on it, but I want to keep hearing about your story. You and the boys have gone out, hit 1 for 6 in Byron Bay. Where to next? Where to next? You've obviously managed to pay some investors back, have a successful first, little crack at your business and your property trust firm, whatever you want to call it. What was the next progression for you three once you'd sold that little arts precinct and wanted to look at more value?
Yeah, so we bought the Byron site, and then 6 months later, so we still had it. That was our next opportunity came about, and look, that was probably 18 months in the making. So that was I was literally putting this kind of deal together whilst I was still working my corporate job before we transitioned to Belingbak, and that stupidly was 13 lots on Pitt Street in the Sydney CBD that we decided to sort of amalgamate and turn into one large kind of mega site.
So 13 lots, like you've got the bakery, post office, like one of those.
Yeah, but we're talking like Sydney CBD though, so it's weird. So you've got all this crazy density, like Pitt Street, Sydney CBD, an amazing amount of density, and then all that was left, it was on this one little patch, was like a bunch of terrace houses, 3-story kind of terrace-like retail buildings, a laneway, and then this is the kind of like rear lot. And so over 18 months, we kind of amalgamated all of those, and it was like a United Nations convention. Like, you're going to Greeks, you're going to and these are legacy assets that these people have owned for 10, 20, 30 years. And, the growth in which they had experienced was insane. But yeah, it was a long time, and it was like a crazy deal for us to do as some pretty young, kind of as a new company. We're literally 6 months into Belingbak, and all of a sudden 3 blokes had pulled together this site in the middle of Pitt Street, which was pretty interesting, to be honest. And yeah, pretty naive as to how big of an endeavour we had kind of bitten off. But we backed ourselves. Like, we'd come from doing big things previously, so for us, like, the process was exactly the same, but there were just a few extra zeros on the end of what we were doing, and
the like 100% of the financial responsibility, as opposed to none of
that
it
too,
and risk.
And us putting pretty serious personal guarantees down on a pretty large sum of debt. But look, we kind of head down. The plan was like, let's just maximise what we can kind of do on this site. So we got an approval for a 60-storey tower.
Right, you're going to be one of those memes that's like rap name Fogey. Like, what you need to do to start when you first invest is build a 60-storey tower in Pitt Street.
6 months in, it was like 300 hotel rooms, 30 luxury residences.
You're kidding.
We did some like height analysis of the tower, and it was like the 5th biggest tower in Sydney. Like, it was almost as tall as the of Centrepoint Tower. And look, we fought tooth and nail, got an approval for that, ran an international design competition, and we were like, we're gonna build this thing.
Can you just touch on the international design competition?
Yeah, it was a planning quirk. We had to, you're governed to do it by the Sydney City Council, but it's to kind of ensure that there's design excellence going back into the city. So
that's really cool.
We had to appoint 5 different architectural firms to compete in a 6-week comp, essentially. And then there's independent jurors plus the developer that then kind of collectively selects the chosen outcome.
Wow. And do you sell the hotel lease for 100 years? Like, how do you actually do you sell the residences? Like, how do you actually get out of running a 60-story building?
Well, for us, it was like, you got to build it first.
Yeah.
So first step was like, get all the approvals in place, build a 60-story tower, sell the residences, and operate the hotel.
And operate it, yes.
That was the plan for us, and that was that was our first kind of real taste of like hotels. And at the time, it was COVID. Like people weren't traveling. People like hotels were on the nose, and we were like, no, like this is not going to be forever. And that was kind of our first taste of wanting to do hotels and hospitality, and I guess is probably a decent segue into what we're doing today.
What I did want to ask on the 60-story building,
Yeah.
what are the lessons that you learned? Like you mentioned, you had some really important learnings in those early parts of your business. Is there any one lesson that stands out when you think about putting up a 60-story high-rise in Sydney as your second job?
Yeah, it was pretty psycho. Look, I think I'm really proud of how he pulled it all together, and to be honest, we made some really good decisions along the way. I think don't let your ego get in the way. Like, know when to pull the ripcord. I think, we were at a time where we're about to settle the site, and like we're at the rate cycle. We had low interest rates throughout all of COVID and all this stimulus, and at the time that we were in the process of signing a very big finance facility, the rates were really starting to climb, and we were probably a bit young, and we were kind of happy to really go balls to the wall because we really believed in what we were doing. But I think as time's gone by, it's probably just applying a little bit of bit more sensibility to what we were doing. But I still respect us for how we handled ourselves throughout that whole process, and how we ultimately ended up selling this large land parcel to a big group, and unlocking again a fair bit of value for ourselves along the way through what was a pretty traumatic period. Like, I've glossed over some pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But
I can imagine that.
I won't bore you with the
60
details.
stories,
But yeah, look, I think it's still in our office today. We've got the design competition models of this tower that we're going to build, and will get built one day. And I look forward to seeing it because, it was our design. We unlocked the value. An epic Perth architect called Kerry Hill won the design competition. Who, I think, it'd be pretty cool to see that go up one day.
I'm excited to see that one go up.
Absolutely. And then I guess the move into hospitality and some rural sites, and like something very different to 60 stories in the Sydney CBD.
Yeah. So we definitely checked ourselves a little bit after that, and that was a pretty stressful moment. Like, definitely lost a fair bit of hair, and some grey started to come earlier than we'd like. Literally straight after that, we got a tap on the shoulder from a friend. And look, we'd also at that time too, we had actually we had the Byron thing going on, we had the Sydney CBD thing going on. And we were also flying back and forth to Perth because we were like, fuck, like Sydney's crazy competitive. Let's go look for some interesting stuff elsewhere. And Matt, my business partner, being from Perth, naturally, I think in time we had a bit of a competitive advantage. We had a good relationship base here, good family base here. And we were like, let's actually start to form a view on what this market looks like. And, it hadn't have done anything for 10 plus years. And our view was like, that's not going to continue forever. The world is changing. People want to be in different places now and can afford to be in different places now. Sydney is not the be-all and end-all, nor is Melbourne, nor is Brisbane kind of thing. And so we bought a little bit of land down in Dunsborough, and that was kind of like the hotel process. Off the back of some learnings from our Pitt Street process, we were then designing this Dunsborough hotel. And then coming off the Pitt Street kind of sale and all the stress and everything, and kind of the highs and lows that came with that, and definitely ended on a high. We strangely ended up down in Denmark where we sit today, and we can touch on that.
Was it always in the conversations? It's like, and we'd love to own a pub and be hands-on in the pub, or it just sort of naturally progressed that way?
I feel like every child, like boy's dream, like you just fantasize around like owning a pub, like at least I did, and my business partners too. And one of my business partners, Robbie, whose name's actually up there. I'm not sure if it's in screen or not, but
Robbie McLean.
Big Robbie McLean. So his old man actually, who unfortunately passed away when he was a young boy, owned a pub in the central west of New South Wales, just outside of Dubbo, called the Never Tire Hotel.
That's a
And
hard
so
name.
Rob,
It's a hard name.
hard as can be, mate. And then like we're talking a local population of a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
The pub, the local watering hole, and Rob tells these stories about him crawling around as a baby, in the pub, literally living upstairs with his parents. And so that's kind of where, so he had kind of that in his veins. And fast forwarding to when we kind of ended up down in Denmark, of course, there's this great romanticy around, how cool is owning a pub. Little did we know how much work it was, which we certainly appreciate and respect now. But yeah, I think it's both. It's like, the romanticy and the work of owning a pub and being hands-on and getting to actually do something quite special, but also taking a view, on Denmark, on where we're located, all this beautiful land around us. We're the only true pub in town. We saw and a property in which was really unloved, and all we'd keep when we were down here kind of doing our due diligence, you hit all these stories from the locals about the good old times back at the Denmark Hotel 10, 20 years ago. I did this, it was just the best. And then when we were in here, which was like when we were kind of doing our due diligence with the old Macedonian publican at the time, who hadn't have spent a cent on this place for 50 odd years, and you'd be lucky to see two people in here over the course
Sounds about
of the
right.
day.
Probably an uncle of mine.
So I guess bit of both, really. The kind of like, fuck, we own a pub, versus, hey, this is a really good opportunity.
And you've aimed to sort of preserve the nature and the feel of the pub. Like, we walked in here the other day and the bistro was full of the old crew having a glass of Sauvignon Blanc and having a nice pasta. Like, it was the pool table was cranking. There was darts going on. I hear there's a bit of a history of the darts, in this pub, which has got more coming, I hear. But you seem to respect the nature of the pub and sort of almost the original, and tried to do your best to recreate that in a contemporary way.
Yeah, you got to tread lightly when you come into, like, if you're going to play in the regions, which is what we've decided to do primarily, you've got to tread pretty lightly, and people are sensitive, and people find change difficult. So yeah, it was like, let's go about it in a really sensitive way, kind of pull back the onion peel, so to speak, to actually just unearth all the good stuff that is here. And I think we've done we don't take much credit at all for the fact that we helped paint the walls, but our architect, a fella called Michael Benson, who's an absolute legend, did a bloody good job just respecting the building and its kind of fabric.
Leaning into its quirks and almost like highlighting them in a sense, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like, just pulling back the old paint to just like try and unearth what was beneath it all.
And what was patched over, thinking this is going to be this modern take. It's like, no, actually, that's the cleanest and that's the best.
Yeah, totally.
I reckon we're going to hear a lot more about the Denmark Hotel and some of the offerings, and some of a little bit about what's next door, hopefully, and some of the other cool things you're going to do. But for now, let's listen to some tracks. You haven't missed yet, so let's see how you go. Are you happy to keep going?
Let's do it.